Hey guys, I'm going to share with you my Netrunner build for Cyberpunk 2077 patch 1.5. The build relies on using Quickhacks and Breach Protocol to weaken enemies and quickly finish them off. By mid-game, around level 25, you should be able to easily kill off large groups of enemies without letting them detect you or get close. In the early game, the Netrunner weakens enemies with Quickhacks, taking them down stealthily or finishing them off with a powerful weapon like a shotgun. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please hit the like button and hit subscribe to stay tuned for future videos. You start out with 3 points in each attribute with 7 points to spend. So you want to spend 3 points in body to get it to 6 points. And you'll want to put 2 points in intelligence to get it to 5. And also 2 points in cool to get it to 5. The build will be focusing on maxing intelligence, cool, and technical ability, with the remaining points going in body, and we'll be prioritizing intelligence to get it to level 20 as soon as possible, also focusing on getting cool to a high level as soon as possible, and also technical ability. At level 50, the final stats will look something like this. Intelligence will be maxed out at level 20, cool will be maxed out at level 20. Technical ability, you want to put 18 points into this. There's no good perks that you can unlock for technical ability at level 20, so there's no point in wasting 2 attribute points to get it to 20. So if you get it to 18, that's pretty good. The rest of the points, you want to put them in body to increase your survivability. And you don't need to put any points in reflexes for this build. As soon as you hit level 2, you want to put 1 point in body to get to 7 body. This will unlock the Epimorphosis perk, which is going to be immensely useful for survivability in the early game. When you level up throughout the game, put points into intelligence and cool in a ratio of 2 to 1 until you have 16 intelligence. We want to get to level 20 intelligence as soon as possible. Then you want to put points in technical ability unless you have the ninjutsu skill maxed out. And if that's the case, put a point in cool so you don't waste skill XP from stealth kills. You won't need much crafted gear until the late game, but technical ability will be useful for opening doors and increasing the number of approaches that you have available during missions and gigs, so you don't want to leave this too low. Now let's look at perks for this build. Let's start with body. So you start the game with 6 points in body, and really the first perk you want to get is regeneration, which allows you to regenerate health during combat. At level 2, the second perk you want to get is Epimorphosis, which unlocks at 7 points in body, and this increases your health regen threshold from 70 to 75% in combat and to 100% out of combat, allowing you to not go into fights with health missing. I really recommend getting Epimorphosis to level 3 as soon as possible. You also want to max the Wolverine perk as soon as possible, which allows health regen to activate 60% faster during combat. You could probably live without this one until you're about level 12 or 13. But I really recommend getting these 2 perks as soon as possible. For the other kills in this tree, you don't really need anything from Annihilation or Street Brawler. Similarly, we don't need any perks from reflexes. Let's look at the perks for technical ability then. For crafting, you really don't need any crafting perks until very late in the game. What I do recommend is getting early on the mechanic perk, which allows you to get more components when you're disassembling items. This will allow you to stock up on crafting components since very early in the game. And these are going to be very useful later in the game. Eventually, when you have a high level of technical ability, you want to unlock as soon as possible True Craftsman perk, which allows you to craft rare items. At level 12 technical ability, you want to unlock Grease Monkey, which allows you to craft epic items. And finally, at level 18 technical ability, you want to unlock Edge Runner Artisan, which allows you to craft legendary items. Besides that, if you have some extra perk points, it wouldn't hurt to put some points in 200% efficiency, which allows crafted clothes to gain 10% more armor, and also cost optimization, which reduces the component cost of crafting items at level 2 by 30%. I also like to get the Scrapper perk, which allows junk items to get disassembled automatically. Okay, for Breach Protocol, you want to get the Mass Vulnerability demon as soon as possible, which reduces the physical resistance of all enemies in the network by 30% for 3 minutes at level 1 and for 6 minutes at level 2. This is going to be really immensely useful, so I recommend unlocking this as soon as possible. You also want to unlock as soon as possible the upgrade to mass vulnerability resistances. Besides these two perks, you want to prioritize getting total recall as soon as possible, which reduces the quick hack cost of all quick hacks by 1 additional RAM unit. Efficiency, which increases Cyberdeck RAM recovery rate by 6 units per 60 seconds for 5 minutes if you upload 3 or more demons in the same breach protocol, which you'll be doing fairly often, but you want to make sure that you have 3 demons to upload before you put points into this perk. So for doing that, I recommend you put at least 1 point in Dreaded Tamer, which can be very useful, and another point in the Big Sleep demon, which disables all cameras in the network. So once you have these 3 demons, you can unlock efficiency. I recommend putting a point in Head Start, which automatically uploads the first demon in your list at the start of Breach Protocol, which is an incredible time saver and quality of life improvement. I recommend unlocking Hackathon, which if you upload 3 or more demons in the same breach protocol, shortens the quick hack cooldowns by 33% for 5 minutes. Compression, which reduces the length of the sequences required to upload demons by 1. This will reduce the number of letter number combinations that you have to choose during breach protocol. I also recommend getting totaler recall, which reduces all quick hack costs by an additional 1 RAM unit. Cloud cache, which reduces the RAM cost of your next quick hack by 2 times the number of demons uploaded. And buffer optimization, which increases the duration of demon effects by 100%. For the quick hacking skill tree, really you need to get pretty much all of these perks. In fact, you want to get your intelligence to level 20 as soon as possible, and you want to be focusing on unlocking intelligence perks really early on, especially the quick hacks that increase your damage. You want to start off by putting a point in Bloodware and getting this to max as soon as possible. This increases the damage dealt by quick hacks by 10% for each level. At level 3, it increases damage by a massive 30%. You want to get Biosynergy, which allows RAM to recover during combat, and at max level recovers 12 RAM units every 60 seconds. Forget-Me-Not, which after eliminating a target affected by a quick hack, instantly recovers 1 RAM unit. So if you have a bunch of enemies infected with contagion, taking them out will allow you to quickly recover RAM units and keep fighting. Daisy Chain, eliminating a target affected by a quick hack, reduces the existing cooldowns for all other active quick hacks by 50%, which is also incredibly useful. You pretty much want to get everything here. There are 2 perks that I haven't found to be very useful. So Weak Link, which reduces the Cyberdeck RAM for quick hacks used on devices by 1 unit. I think this was pretty weak. I didn't put any points in this. And also the I Spy perk, which reveals an enemy Netrunner when they're attempting to hack you. I played through the entire game without ever needing this. Most Netrunners were pretty quickly dead from the Contagion quick hack, so I never needed this. So if you have an extra perk point, you can drop it here. But yeah, this perk is not that useful. And Anamnesis, this is pretty useful. Once you've got maxed out all of the other perks, you should start putting in points in here and try to get it to max level. From the ninjutsu skill tree, there are a few perks that are going to be incredibly useful in the early game when our quick hacks are not strong enough to take out strong or very large groups of enemies. So for the early game, we'll be playing pretty stealthily. I recommend getting the assassin perk, which increases 15% more damage to human enemies. I recommend getting Strike from Shadows, which increases your crit chance by 7% while sneaking. The Crouching Tiger perk, which increases movement speed while sneaking by 20%. And From the Shadows, which increases your crit chance by 20% for 7 seconds when you enter combat. And finally, at level 12, you should be able to unlock the Cheat Death perk, which when your health drops below 50%, reduces all incoming damage by 50% for 10 seconds, which is great for survivability. For the Cold Blood kill tree, you want to unlock most of these perks except the ones which have to do with melee damage or ranged weapons. So you want to start by putting 1 point in Cold Blood as soon as you can. In fact, I recommend that this should be the third perk that you get after getting the health regeneration and epimorphosis perks. So you start gaining Cold Blood XP as soon as possible. This was the third perk that I got, and even at level 50, I'm still at only level 15 Cold Blood. So to maximize your XP gain for this skill, I recommend getting this perk as soon as possible. So this should be the third perk that you're getting. Besides that, you should get Coagulant, which allows your stacks to be removed one by one and not all at once. Cold and Calculating, which allows landing a critical hit to have a 50% chance of applying a stack of Cold Blood. Pain is an illusion which reduces damage by 5% while Cold Blood is active. Critical Condition, which increases the duration of Cold Blood by 50%. Quick Transfer, which reduces Quick Hack upload time by 3% per stack of Cold Blood. Frosty Synapses, which reduces Quick Hack cooldowns by 6% per stack of Cold Blood. Coldest Blood, which increases the max number of stacks for Cold Blood by 2. Blood Swell, which upon receiving lethal damage while Cold Blood is active, prevents you from dying. I still have to max out Rapid Blood Flow, which increases health regen inside and outside combat by 5%. This is pretty useful, but this is pretty much an endgame perk. Eventually you want to put 2 points in this. You also want to max out Defensive Clotting, which increases armor by 4% per stack of Cold Blood, and also Will to Survive, which increases all resistances by 3% per stack of Cold Blood. As soon as you have the intelligence required to unlock the critical error perk, I really recommend putting a point in this perk. This allows your quick hacks to deal critical hits based on your crit chance and crit damage stats, which will increase your damage output exponentially. This build will rely mainly on using quick hacks to kill everyone, but you can use a variety of weapons to finish off stubborn enemies or for situations where you're out of RAM and have a strong enemy bearing down on you. In the early game, I recommend having a handgun with a silencer to stealthily take out enemies and staying in stealth while your RAM regenerates, or while your quick hacks are on cooldown. It's also a good idea to equip a shotgun. They're powerful enough to one-shot enemies with a headshot at close range and finishing off enemies that have been brought to low health with quick hacks. Using a shotgun is also going to help level up the Annihilation perk up to level 10, which will get you a few extra perk points to spend. For the third slot, I recommend using a rifle or SMG or sniper rifle to take out stubborn enemies from a greater distance. At higher levels though, so by the time you get to level 20-25, your level of intelligence will be high enough to take down big groups of enemies just by using quick hacks. For Cyberware, let's start with the frontal cortex. Most of the frontal cortex Cyberware requires a high level of intelligence. So with this build, you can get a lot of legendary frontal cortex Cyberware. What is really good for this build is the visual cortex support, which increases your crit damage by 30%. The limbic enhancement system, which increases your crit chance by a massive 7%. There are a couple of options for the third slot, but I like to use memory boost, which instantly recovers 3 RAM every time you kill an enemy. This allows you to really chain several quick hacks one after the other. For the ocular system, you want to be using the Kiroshi Optic Mark III. You want to use the mods that increase your crit chance. For the circulatory system, there are not that many good options because most of them require a higher level of the body attribute, but there are a few that are still useful and don't require a very high level of body. So the first one is the tyrosine injector, which increases the breach time of breach protocol by 100%. This gives you some extra time to complete breach protocol. I never really need that much time, but in some cases it can be useful. I also like to use the biomonitor, which instantly restores 30% health when your health drops to 15% every 240 seconds. The bioplastic blood vessels, which increase health regen outside of combat by 1 point per second. For the immune system, I recommend using Cataresist, which increases all resistances by 35%. Pain Editor, which reduces all incoming damage by 10%. For the nervous system, there are not that many great options, but there's still 2 good options. The first one is the Synaptic Accelerator, which slows time by 30% for 2 seconds when you are detected by enemies, and Neofiber, which increases mitigation chance by 2% and mitigation strength by 10%. Now, this might not be that useful, but there are not many options. You might want to try out Korenzikov and see if you like that better. For the integumentary system, I recommend using the legendary version of subdermal armor, which increases armor by 300 points. The heat converter, which when affected by burn, instead of giving you damage, allows you to deal 10% more damage. Grounding plating, which grants you immunity to shock. For skeleton, again, there are not that many good options. For this build, it can be useful to use bionic joints, which reduces the recoil of ranged weapons by 12%. From time to time, you will find yourself using them, so this can be useful. And also the synaptic signal optimizer, which increases your health by 20%. For arms, you don't really need any cyberware for this build, but I got the gorilla arms, so I could complete the fist fighting missions in the game. For legs, like pretty much all builds, I recommend using reinforced tendons, which allow you to double jump. This can be really helpful in getting yourself to, well, various hiding places. It increases the number of approaches that you have available to complete missions. For the deck, there are a couple of good options out there. I like the stats on the Netrunner Rippler Mark IV the best. It has base RAM of 10, buffer size of 8, and it has 6 slots for Quickhacks. It also has some great passive effects. It allows your ultimate quick hack, like suicide, to spread to an additional target. It reduces the RAM cost of ultimate quick hacks by 3, which is also very useful. It reduces quick hack upload time by 75%. This allows you to pretty much instantly kill enemies with short circuit or synapse burnout. It also reduces quick hack cooldown by 45%. There are other choices from the legendary Cyberdecks. This is my favorite. There are a few quick hacks that I found were great for most encounters. Let's start with ping. Ping allows you to see on your minimap all of the devices and enemies that are in the area. Sometimes this can be useful when you need to clear an area out and you can't find that last enemy, or you don't know where the enemies are. I don't always use ping, but I need it often enough to have it always in my cyber deck. The second perk I like a lot is short circuit. You can see it's got massive amounts of damage. This will take out the strongest foes in just a couple of seconds. Contagion, this is a damage over time quick hack that spreads to targets in a group. So I usually start off by, well, after breach protocol, I start off by infecting everyone with contagion, and usually that is enough to clear out an entire group of enemies. If after contagion has run out and there's still someone standing, I use overheat, which is also damage over time. There's also synapse burnout. This causes a very high amount of damage depending on how much missing health the target has. So after using contagion or overheat, if the target still has some health left, you can use synapse burnout to cause a very high amount of damage. It's also very effective against boss enemies. Finally, I love to use the suicide quick hack. It's really fun to use. Using this on an enemy will make them instantly commit suicide. It spreads to one additional target if you have the right cyber deck. With this quick hack, you'll instantly take out 2 enemies. That was my Netrunner build for Cyberpunk 2077 patch 1.5. The build is pretty overpowered and you can instantly take out a big group of enemies. So if you feel that combat has become too easy, you might want to bump up the difficulty level. I hope you liked this video. Please hit the like and subscribe button and share your comments and Netrunner builds in the comments below. Also let me know in the comments below which build you'd like to see me cover next.